Let's go through the word bank process to complete another math goal for Luke. First, we need to select a grade level standard to work from. We can narrow the standards down by looking at common concepts that are within the same subject area and even shared concepts across subjects, such as graphing being used in math, science, and social studies. We can look in our district curriculum resources to see if this grouping has already been done. Otherwise, we can use tools to help find common words or even use the Word Find tool in a Word document. In this case, because of the discussion we had while writing the present levels of performance, we know that we want Luke to do further work with fractions and decimals. Fractions and decimals are a grade level concept, and doing a search through the math standards, we find several standards that relate to fractions and decimals. Through discussion with the general education teacher as to which standard would be most critical, and using the information we gathered on Luke, we select a standard to develop the word bank. The team determines that we need to work on standards relating to adding and subtracting fractions and decimals. We insert the standard onto our word bank and break it down into concepts and skills. Remember that our concepts are nouns and noun phrases from the standard, and skills are the verbs and verb phrases. Now we need to determine what the bridges and gaps Luke has. A bridge is an area where he has skills that will move him towards the goal. A gap is where he will need additional instruction in order to reach the goal. Some skills he needs to have in place in order to work with fractions and decimals. These would be to make groups and sets. He also needs to understand equal parts. He needs to know the numerator and denominator and their functions. He would also need to understand place value, so he knows what the decimal place would be. We know from the present levels that Luke can add and subtract and has been working well with whole numbers, so we mark those as bridges. He does not have a good understanding of numerator and denominators or place value, so we mark those as gaps. After we have completed that step, we want to consider if he really needs a goal in this area, or if with supports and accommodations he can complete this independently in the classroom. One accommodation we could provide him would be graph paper to help line up the fractions and decimals correctly. He will need some additional instruction on how to write a fraction from a group of objects, but that would not prevent him from working on adding and subtracting fractions. The team also does not feel he could do regrouping now, even though at grade level the addition and subtraction are not limited to numbers without regrouping. If we only provided Luke with graph paper, he would not be successful in this work, so we will need to proceed to writing a goal. To write our goal, we want to use the key words we identified on the word bank, taking into consideration the skills and concepts and the bridges and gaps that Luke has. We are going to write the goals so it is something that can reasonably be accomplished in the year, and so it will progress him towards grade level proficiency. We need to make sure when writing the goal we include the condition that he will perform the task, the performance of the behavior that we would expect him to perform, and we would need to include the criteria we expect him to perform at in order to meet the goal and the time frame in which we expect this to be done. Using all of our resources, we will construct a goal that when we give Luke 20 computation problems that include double-digit fractions with like denominators and/or decimals to the 100th place, he will increase his math computation skills in addition and subtraction using fractions and decimals to 80% in 4 consecutive trials.